Pink Poodle Crafts, join the Poodle Pack. It's time to get creative and make you laugh. Make your own art today. Pink Poodle Crafts is the way.
What a good boy. Hello, crafty family. Hello. How are you doing today? So, I've been working on this journal on and off since last year. Most of it was worked on last year. I just started kind of doing it again because I put it away for like the holidays and then I hadn't taken it out. This is a vintage ledger journal cover that I put holes in, and I have rings to go in here. And, you know, I've been slowly but surely kind of decorating this journal. And I was like wanting to put something different in, and I was trying to think of something that I could put in it, you know, that would be kind of interesting and maybe, you know, that's something I haven't seen, you know, ever really. And so I started, and I had this idea in my head. It's getting thick. I don't even think the rings are going to fit back on it. I have to really squeeze it down like that to do it. But I had this idea in my head of something, and I was like, ooh, you know, I wonder if I could find somebody who, you know, has a tutorial on it so I can make one. And I looked everywhere and I couldn't find nothing. And my idea was to have like a pocket, or like, you know, it could be like a journal page, or it could be just a pocket that was on a journal page. I don't know, something like that. That when you pulled the tab, a whole bunch of pages came out in a row, like came out straight out, like going from biggest to smallest. And I was like, there has to be something like that. So I was looking it up, and I'm like, well, maybe I'm not, you know, the first thing I looked up was telescoping. And I think I put in first telescoping card because I thought for sure that, you know, that would be, somebody would have made this in a card form because it would be kind of a cool like greeting card maybe. So I put in telescoping card, and then I put in telescope, and the only thing I found in telescoping card was they had this thing where it was totally different. It wasn't anything like I'm doing, but it was like a card, and then it had like a graphic on it that was repeated several times, but it was, or no, it was one graphic, but they like, you know how you like paper piece and then you make some of it popped up? Well, they had it where it was like the image, and then it would have like a section, and it would kind of build up, and that was it. That's what they called telescoping card. So I looked up telescoping journal pocket, telescoping journal insert. Then I looked like all kinds of things. I don't know. I looked up in every which way for over an hour because I didn't want to have to make this up myself because I was lazy, and I'm like, ugh, I just want somebody to show me how to do it so I could just do it. I didn't want to have to figure it out and all that. I just wasn't in the mood. But I figured, well, I might as well figure it out because, you know, and make it, because otherwise I ain't going to have it. So I decided, well, I might as well, you know, after I made the prototype one that I'm going to show you, you know, I was like, well, I should do a video showing how to make the next one. So this is my prototype. It is not very good because it's prototype, like it's not very even and all that, but who cares? But this is what I was looking for, and I was hoping to find was something that, obviously, if it's attached to a journal, it's easier to do. Something that did that. Right? So that came out, and who knows, this might be something, and maybe one of you could tell me what it's called if it is, because, and you know, I know what a waterfall journal or waterfall page is. That's not what this is. It's different, you know, and I'm just like, I don't know if anybody's made it ever. I mean, because there's so many videos on YouTube, it's almost impossible. And if somebody didn't call it anything that I'm kind of referring it to, because to me it's like telescoping, you know, it reminds you, this literally looks like a telescope, and you would look into this end, you know what I mean, like kind of like that. It looks like a telescope. If I leave it here and painted it black, you'd think it was like, what are you doing, putting together a telescope? Because that's what it looks like. So that's why I kept thinking it was like telescope pocket, telescope page, telescoping pocket. Couldn't find anything. So I said, well, I guess I'm making one. So that's this. I don't know if if there is somebody out there that you know of that has made this in some way, you know, point me to it, because they might have a better way of doing it than my way, but my way works, you know, it works fine. It's just, you know, I'm not the biggest engineer in the world, so I don't know, somebody might have had a better way to do it. But anyway, for now, this is what we got. I'm going to show you how to do it just in case you're interested in doing it. And maybe you can even do it better. I don't know. Maybe you'll find a way to do it better than mine. Mine got stuck. Sometimes it'll get stuck a little bit, but not usually. Probably because I had some glue issue where I got a little bit of glue overflow. This one gets stuck most because it's like only one ply, whereas the others are pockets, so they're like 2 ply. And that last one loves to get stuck. But it's just probably because I haven't used it very much, so it hasn't been done very much. So, but anyway, that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to make one for my journal and decorate it. So I'm gonna show you how to make one. Whether we get to decorating it in this video, I don't know. Let's see how long it takes me to recreate this. Start there and then we'll see what happens. So in order to make that, you need 4 pieces of paper. You need, I already cut them because I thought, well, I'll be ahead of the game and be a little prepared, right? You need one that's 6 1/4 by 10. So 6 1/4 by 10. Here, well, I was going to say I'd write it on my thingamajiggy, but I don't have a Sharpie over here. What's going on? No Sharpies? I got Sharpies. I got Sharpies coming out the butt. Where's my Sharpies at? Okay, maybe not. I thought I had a bunch of Sharpies over here. No, I don't. Okay, then. I will write it on a piece of paper. If I can get a piece of paper. There we go. Alright, I'll just write it with a pen on a piece of paper. With whatever marker I have here. So the first sheet is going to be 6 1/4 by 10. 6 1/4 by 10. The next piece is going to be 5 1/2 by 10. The next piece is going to be 4 3/4 by 10. And the last piece is going to be 4 by 5. And so that is the 4 pieces of paper you need and their sizes. So next you'll need a scoreboard. I'll try to leave this over here, but it might get pushed around a bit. Next you'll need a scoreboard, and you're going to take your paper and you're going to score it at the 5-inch mark, and you're going to do this on each of the papers except for the last one, which is only 4 by 5, so you don't need to do it on that one. So you might as well do this part all together. So 5 inches, just give it a score, because they're all 10 inches, so we're going to score them all at the 5-inch mark and fold them in half. And then we'll start with the biggest one and go from there. So obviously we're going to fold this in half and score it with a bone folder or something or other. Now, I will warn you that this one will stay at this width when it's done, but the other ones, even though they were 10 inches, we are going to do a little bit of trimming on each one as we go. And the reason why I couldn't do a measurement, because it was like very weird, and I thought it was just, for me, it was just easier this way. So, you know, you'll see what I mean in a little bit. So the first one we're doing, we don't have to do a whole lot to. After we score it, we're going to reopen it and we're going to place it, the small end, against the numbers on your scoreboard. And you're going to score it at 3/8 of an inch on either side. So you're going to do, 3/8 of an inch on either side, which is on the Martha Stewart scoreboard. It would be like, call these little indents that you score from that have the measurements. They're little ticks, I'll call them, but they're all 1/8 of an inch. Each one of these is 1/8 of an inch. So you're going to count 1, 2, 3 of those little ticks in there. And you're just going to go like that. And then you can either flip it over or just do it from the other side. It doesn't matter. And go 1, 2, 3 little of those little grooves or ticks in. And that's 3/8 of an inch. So, easy peasy, right? so this we can set aside for a minute. Now, the next thing we're going to do is we're just going to cut one side of the middle line, right? So you got your score line down the middle. We're going to cut off this rectangular tab off of one side and one side only. So you just cut it in the middle going to the center like that, and then you can cut it. Now you can use a, you know, if you can get a cutter to work to do that perfectly, that's fine. Otherwise, just cut it with your, just take your time and go as slow as you know, just go slow and take your time so that you don't cut it all wonkified. We don't want it to be all wonkified. And then the same on this side. It's easier to do it for me on the right side, so I'll turn it over. And just go up, and there you go. Okay. So now we have this. So here, well, actually, no, we don't have to do that on this one, do we? A little bit. We're going to make a little itty bitty, a very small, now you could do an angled cut, or you can just go straight across and cut just like a tiny bit off. It's up to you. If you do it an angled, you're just going to do a very small angle. You don't want to cut too much off of here, but if you don't cut any off, when you fold this over, it's going to not go over as nicely. Is my fold crooked? No. Okay. So when you do it, you just want to do it very, very little bit. We want it to just do a little because we don't want to cut too much of that off. On some things you can go a little further on, but on this, you know, like when you're making a regular pocket or something, you can, it doesn't matter, but. So we're just cutting a sliver off. It doesn't really matter how. Just so that it closes a little nicer. Of course, I already made a mess of it. Making a mess. All right, and then you're going to score these really good because you want them to lay as flat as humanly possible. All right, is this crooked? Probably. Yeah. Trying to get that. I'm the queen of crooked. Queen of crooked. Alright, it doesn't have to be perfect, but, I mean, not for me anyway. Maybe for you, but I'm trying my best to get it just to cooperate a little bit. Okay, so we've got our little tab dudes. Now, the only place we're going to put any glue right now is just near the bottom. So what you're going to do is unfold your tab and you're going to put glue just between, just don't mind my nasty fingers, just on like the last 1/4 inch of each side of these tabs. Just on the last little, like what you're seeing here, just that last little bit. About a 1/4 inch. You want it to be enough, but you know, you're not going all the way up. You're just going like a 1/4 inch up. Is fine. A little more is fine, but you're going to do it on both sides. So then you're going to fold it over so that just that little bottom part is the only part that's glued down. You're going to do it on both sides. Try to make it even on both sides so you don't want it to be like glued a 1/4 inch, you know, 1/2 inch on one side, a 1/4 inch on the other side. Try to keep it as even as possible as far as the distance up on both sides that you glue. All right. And that's all we're going to do to this piece for right now. That's it. I didn't cut that right, did I? Nope. Anyway, so we're going to set that aside and we're going to get the next piece of paper, which is the 5.5 by 10. And that one's already scored in half. So we're going to fold it. Make sure when you fold it, it folds evenly, unlike half the time when I do things and it's completely off kilter. That's the thing. Like, it's kind of important that these are folded as nicely as you can get them. Okay. And now we're going to score it again 3/8 of an inch on either side. So we're going to do 3. Actually, that's not true. Hold on. I forgot I did a tweak last time. Before I do that all the way down, the difference on this one, I almost forgot. See, I don't even know how to make it yet. Is, so I don't want the score lines to be right here. So I'm not going to be going right across that crease because we're going to be making the tabs that go in here that'll pull it, that'll be used to pull the accordion down. I don't have it. Oh, I think it's over here. So in order to make this work, right, there's a tabs. This is that first piece. And inside of here, there is, this one here has, it's cut. And this, there's like a tab at the top that slides in and out. That's the mechanics of my little thing. So we're going to be making those tabs out of this up here. So I don't want it scored across because then it kind of, or scored this way, it'll kind of, to me, it makes it more flimsy. So what I'm going to do is, because I want the tabs to be 3/8 of an inch in, obviously, and then 3/8 of an inch long or longer. You can make them a little bit longer, but I wouldn't make them too much longer because that's going to make it so it doesn't pull out all the way. So I would just say no more than 3/8 of an inch longer, but don't do them any shorter than that either. Because if you do it like a 1/4 inch or an 1/8 of an inch, that's what I did on my first one. And my first like prototype, which I have laying around here, the part of it that I did, I didn't like it because it was like, I felt like the tabs weren't sturdy enough. So basically what I'm saying is, what you should do is, and I'm doing this on the inside, I want it on the inside of the card since up here by the fold is where, well, I guess I could do it this way. So I'm using this as a ruler. I'm not scoring. So 3/8 of an inch, you're just going to make a little line, right? And then I could do it here, 1, 2, 3, use that and make a little line. And then 3/8 of an inch in, make another line. And where they meet, I don't want any score lines, okay? So here's that, and then, well, I could do it on this side here. 3, and I'm just kind of eyeballing it. It's just a small line, so it's not a big deal. So, you know, that type of thing. You don't want any score lines crossing this area, those lines, or anywhere in between. So we're going to keep the score lines out of these areas. Now that's going to mean on this side as well. So you're going to do the same thing here. You can just transpose it and start going up this way, and then do the same thing on the back and go 3/8 of an inch down and just kind of meet it in the middle. And then same thing here. And just kind of eyeball everything. Just as long as you have the general consensus. You can erase this when you're done. You don't have to do it this way. You can kind of just eyeball everything. So, in other words, now when I score, right, so now I got 3/8. I'm going to go down and I'm going to stop when I get to this line right here. I'm not going to go all the way down. And then I'm going to pick back up here and just continue all the way. And I'm going to do the same thing here. You just go in 1, 2, 3 and go down to that start of that and then continue at the other end of it. And bam, you did it. And now you can erase any lines. It just makes it easier. But before you erase your lines, fold your thing in half. And what you're going to do is cut. So it's probably a good idea that you make lines. You're going to cut the vertical lines on this and while it's folded so that you're cutting both sides equally. And then you can erase your lines. So you're going to make a little snip going across, not with the score, But on this side, you're going to make one slit there and one slit there. And now you can erase your lines. So I'll take my handy dandy eraser. You didn't have to do them as dark as I did, but I did them that dark so that you guys can see. Who am I kidding? I did them that dark because I'm heavy-handed and I always do lines dark. Okay. So there we go. So now we've got, if you open it up, we have a cut like that and a cut like that on either side. So now, just like the other one of these sides is going to get the tabs cut off where the score lines. We're going to cut on the score line starting from our little area up here down. So we're going to cut that off. We're going to cut that off just on one side. So we're just going to take our time. We're going to cut along the score line and do that on the other side, which might be easier to do it this way. So now it should look like this. You should have a score line going straight through the middle of these little two tabs, and then you should have the two tabs on either side here that are, and then this side should be smaller. Now, the only other thing is, right, so this section here, the smaller side, has to fit in between these two tabs when they're folded inward. So it has to fit perfectly in between there. And if for some reason it's a little off, you can take your scissors and cut a little bit up if it's a little off. Now you can draw a line to make it even. I'm just going to eyeball it. And just give yourself a little sliver either off of both sides. You don't want to do it unevenly because you want it to look even. So I'm just going to do a tiny sliver off of each side because it wasn't quite, you know, it was a little bit too tight. So I'm just taking like literally a little sliver because I want this to make sure that it'll fit between there. It doesn't have to have a lot of room, but it just has to have, like, make sure, you know, if you go all the way up, it'll clear either side because that's where it's going to slide. And you don't want it to not clear that area. It'll just make it easier to slide. So that's the only thing you have to look out for on there, is to make sure it'll go in between there. So once you've done that, now you can take your sides and fold them in like you did on the first one and burnish them really well. Okay, and then you have got the basics of your pocket, because what's going to happen is your pocket, and we might have to adjust this as well because it's a little tight, so it's not going underneath the tabs at the same time. So we may have to cut just a little sliver off of each tab. So you may have to adjust it a little bit. It's not going to be perfect, just a sliver, because you don't want it to be too loose, but we're going to adjust it as we go. It makes it easier, and you'll have an easier chance of getting it to go right. Mine's still a little tight. Also, I'm going to round the edges, which also helps. So just on the little tab here, I'm going to round that edge and that corner there, because that might help. First, this is crooked, so it might help if I made it straight. So I'm going to round it, which also helps it slide in and out better. Slide up and down or whatever if you round the edges a little bit. So shorten it a little bit and then round the edges on it. See, now that's why I didn't want that scored, because I didn't want this to be too flimsy. Just round that edge and round this edge. And dump the garbage off my page. Now, once you do that, you should be able to slide these in and slide it freely all the way down to where you glued it, and that's where it'll stop. Cool, huh? Easy peasy. So when it's closed, even when it's glued, it'll still go in and out. We're not going to glue that yet. These get glued very last because you don't want to glue them now, because if you want to decorate your page, I only did that one because it was my like prototype. But if you want to decorate your pages and put like scrapbook paper or whatever, you don't want it to be closed, because then you can't get to this in here and you're going to have a heck of a time, you know, unless you just want to decorate it here. You could do that too, I guess. It doesn't matter. I guess that's an idea. I guess you could do that. But we also need to get the next one in, and it's kind of hard to do that when it's in place. So we got that one done. We got this one. Now we need to make the next thing that's going to slide here. So we're going to, again, take this and put a little bit of glue, just a 1/4 inch in, just like we did on this one. We're going to do our glue just on the little ends there. That's why I don't want you to go too far up, but I don't want you to be too, you know, I don't want it to be like 1/8 of an inch. I'd rather you did like a 1/4 inch. That's a good, this way it's strong and it's not going to like fall apart, but it's also not taking up too much, because that determines how far out it's going to slide too. So 1/4 inch is good. You can even mark it with a pencil if you're not sure how to eyeball a 1/4 of an inch. And then just fold it over and hold it for a second. And now we can get the next page, which is the 4 3/4 by 10, which is this one here. And we're going to do the exact same thing that we just did. I'm going to score this first to make sure it's even. Or I mean, burnish it. Make sure it's as even as I can get it anyway. Alright, and I'm going to do 3/8 of an inch on from either side in as my tab. So 1, 2, 3. Oh yeah, almost forgot. We got to make the same little box as we did on the other one. So I'll hold it this way. Same thing, 3/8 of an inch. That's going to be our key here. Is my pen running out? Oh no. Do I not have another ink in here or thing? I guess I don't. Okay, I have no more pencil. Let me get a pencil. I know I have another pencil. There's one. Okay, anyway. 3/8 of an inch in. I could do it from here. 3. And then 3/8 of an inch here, and just kind of eyeball it to meet it in the middle, because it's literally just to make sure that it, I'll do it from this side. Just to make sure you don't score on those lines. Now we're going to score 3/8 of an inch on either side, just going to those lines and then going down here. And then we're going to cut just that one line right there on both sides, all the way through both pieces of paper, you know, because it's folded. And now we can erase our lines and move on. Which I put that one eraser away, but I need an eraser. A good one, please. Where is it? Oh, it's in here. Yep. And now we're going to fold it. Oh, actually no, we're going to take off one set of the one set of the tabs on the right and the left side. And then we'll be checking to see if it is too big, which it probably is. We'll probably have to take off a little sliver more. But I always check first, just in case I cut enough when I did the tabs here. So now we're going to check. Now we're going to use the previous one. We're not going to use the biggest one, but we're going to use this one and make sure that this side here clears the inside of this. We want to make sure that it's not too tight, and I just have to take off a sliver again. I usually do have to take off a sliver. Sliver? What the hell is a sliver? A slipper? A sliver on either side. Just a tiny little sliver does the trick. And I know that I don't measure and account for that when I'm doing this, but there's really no way to do that. And there's no way to say, well, I mean, how do I measure a sliver? I mean, is there a measurement for that? It's not even like enough to consider it like a 1/16 of an inch even. Maybe if you add both slivers together, but they have to be done evenly so that the piece doesn't look wonky. So now let's see. Get out of the way. All right, something stuck. Oh, I was grabbing onto the bottom piece. Just as long as there is, it's hard to see with the white paper. I should have done this on a different color maybe, but yeah, now we're good. We're good. Good, good, good. So now we can fold over these tabs and burnish them down and then glue the ends of them down. Just the bottom part, just like on the other ones. Make sure this is even. No. Over here. I don't know why. I never have even. Oh, that's right, because I'm cutting a sliver off, so it's never going to be perfectly even. But that's okay. Okay, now I'm going to glue my bottom. Glue stuck at the top. Yeah, see, I made that a bit too uneven, I guess. Oh, well, that's alright. I'm going to cover it with paper anyway, so it doesn't matter. Alright, so then we have our thingamajig, and this one needs to be able to slide in here, and again, tabs are just a little too big. So I'm going to cut a little sliver off of each side and then check it again, and also round the edges once I think I'm close to the way I want it, and just make sure they fit underneath of both sides and can slide. That's a little tight still. Around it. You don't need a corner rounder or anything, you just eyeball it. You're just trying to, just making it a little more aerodynamic, basically. Clean that off, that's dirty. Okay, so now this should slide in here, and it does. Perfect, that one slides in there, and this one slides in here. Just like that. So we got most of our telescope done. And then we just need the last piece, which is our 4x5. And the only thing we're doing with this piece is we're going to make a tab, and this is going to come out here. But how we're going to make the tab is we're going to make the lines on either side, just like we would if we were making the whole thing, except we don't have to score it down the middle first. We're just going to make our 3/8 and 3/8 score down the side. Oh, that's 2/8. Oops. I did it wrong. 3/8, dummy. Not 2/8, not a 1/4 of an inch. We're going one notch past the 1/4 inch mark. But it's okay because I am taking most of this off, so we are going to be cutting most of this off, so it's fine. Now what we're going to do is we're going to cut or we're going to measure 3/8 and we're going to put a pencil line. So I can do it from either side because it measures 5 inches. So I'll just go 1, 2, 3. I'm going to put my little pencil line, and same on this side. 1, 2, 3. And now I'm going to cut on those pencil lines to the inner score line. So I'm just going to make a snip here and a snip on this side. And now I'm going to cut everything off except for these 2 tabs. So I'm going to cut these 2 sides off. I accidentally scored that a second time because I messed up. So this is pretty easy to make. Once you do it once, you're going to be like, oh, okay, I get it. You know what I mean? Like, it's actually really, really simple. But like I said, if you know anybody that has made this and done a video on it and all that, maybe put like the link or something, because I have not seen it and I couldn't find it. So that's why I had to that's why I tell people, like, if I see somebody that I'm friends with and they have a YouTube channel, and see, I scored across my things, which I didn't want to do, but that doesn't really matter that much because, oh, I didn't mean to throw those away. Keep your little doohickey, one of the ends that you cut off here, keep it, because we're going to reinforce this one. Since this is a single piece and it's not a double piece like these all are, because they have a double, you know, and they're a little bit more sturdier to pull, we're going to put a piece of paper across this, and we're going to glue it across. And I shouldn't have scored on my, so that's why I don't usually score across the tabs, but I was not thinking when I did it. So don't score across your tabs. Try to do that little box thing where you make the little box here. You just don't have to make it on the other side. You don't have to, I mean, you can make it on these 2 sides, but you don't have to do it a second time. But anyway, but this will be fine because we're going to glue this like that. So I'm going to cut it to the length of this, and then I'm going to glue it on there before I start doing anything else. So that'll make it nice and sturdy and give it that double layer that it should have. But anyway, like I was saying, I forget what I was saying. I was saying, well, I guess, yeah, if you know, I've seen it before, let me know. Send me a message with a link or something, because I would just like to see it. I'd be curious to see what, oh, no, that's what I was saying. I totally lost my train of thought, didn't I? Oh, about YouTube videos. I tell people that that might be just starting out, that might be a friend or something or whoever. If I see them and I see that their videos aren't titled how they should be, I usually will tell them. Like, in other words, whenever you do a video, you should always title it. I didn't cut that very straight. You should always make sure you're putting exactly what you're doing in your title. So don't just say, oh, I'm just doing some crafting. Now, I'll do that for some of my live streams because sometimes I'm just working on whatever and it's just a live stream. But for my videos, I always make sure I'm putting exactly what I'm making in the title of the video, so that this way it's easy for somebody to look up. You know, so that's important to do. So who knows, a person that, you know, maybe could have done this exact thing, you know, maybe they didn't title their video right. And so it's like, you know, there's no way to search for it. I have a little bit sticking up. Okay, so there's our thing. Now we're going to do just like we did on the other one, where we make sure that it'll slide. in our little thing, like it fit, make sure it fits in between here. Which this one is just a hair off. Just a hair. So I'm just going to take a little hair off of, like a little hair off of each side. I'll take a little sliver hair off of each side. It was mostly towards the bottom because I probably cut it a little crooked when I was cutting it before. Okay. Of course, this will probably be a little too big. It is. I'll cut these a little shorter. Make sure you do it on each side, because that'll determine how even and straight it stays coming out the, bottom. Okay, that's good. Now I just want to round it. But it's nice and sturdy up here so that it'll be easier to... It's still a little more flimsy here, but at least as long as this is sturdy, you'll have a better, smoother, kind of transition back. Coming out, they're pretty easy, but it's going back. They get a little stuck sometimes. But I found that by rounding the edges, they don't get nearly as stuck. They do a little bit better job. So, and the glue. See, now I feel it getting stuck right here a little bit. Right here, it's getting a little stuck. So I'm going to further make this side a little shorter, because that's the side that was getting most stuck. We'll see if that helped. Because sometimes it's just, you'll have a side that gets more stuck. That's why it's good to test it out pretty well like this. There we go. Now it's gliding. And then it'll be good. Okay, so now we're ready to decorate it or put it together and then decorate it. Trying to think of how I want to do that. Do I want to decorate it after I put it together? Maybe I should, because then maybe I can make it look cohesive if I do it that way. Oh, I almost forgot something important, which might not work now. Oh well, it might be too late. Damn it, I did that the last time too. One thing that you should do is, so I'm going to test this out a little bit here, because when it's in, it might, it's not going to stay in very well if it's not glued, but see, I wanted to originally, I guess it's fine. It kind of has like a little stair stepping. I was going to cut that all the way off. You can't cut it now because you'll potentially, well, I guess you could before you glue it. Yeah, you can. What am I thinking? Because you have enough glue on the edges down here on these tabs where you can cut a sliver off. So if you wanted to do that, yeah, that's true. Now's the time to do it. Just take, where's my cutter at? Oh, just take your cutter, and not off the big one, but like off the subsequent ones going down. If you want them to be flush all the way to the edge of this one, then cut, you could just start by cutting a sliver and testing it, because each one might be a little different. So don't try to cut them all at once. I mean, I guess you could, but I think each one will be different. You'll have to cut less off the first one, and then as they go in, you'll probably have to cut a little bit more off of each one. So I'm just going to say, just do a sliver at a time. Like I'm going to try this, and the best way to test it is to put it in and make sure it's folded shut. And it doesn't have to be flush. It's probably better if it's in a little bit, so that it, because once it's glued, you don't know if it might not go all the way back as nice. So you might have a little sticking out. So I'm actually going to take off a little sliver more. And it's not going to affect the glue because you put enough on. You're taking literal, just little slivers. I'm not saying to take, big chunks. Let's see, does that sit better? Yeah. See, now it's like, it's in there a little bit, which is fine because the last one's going to have the tab on it, which will pull everything out. So you don't have to worry about this one not sticking out. Then the next one should sit the same way into this one, which I'm going to take this out. So this one should sit, now this is going to stick out even more because I just cut this one shorter. So fold it and stick it in. So see where it is? So like I can gauge this one a little easier because I could take my pencil and kind of mark it because it's sticking out, which didn't mark very well, but it marked it so far out. But here. There. And I can mark it down there so that I know where to cut it a little easier. Instead of eyeballing it, I can kind of get a little more precise with it if I do it this way. Whoops, that moved. Don't shift, don't move. There we go. All right, let's see how that looks now. Inside of here. There we go. Perfect. And now the last one, which is the little guy. And that we're going to stick in and do the same thing. And so I'm going to open it, and then I could see where the edge is. It made it a little easier. Okay, and we'll cut that one so it is flush, because we're going to put a little tab on it, so it doesn't need to be, it also doesn't need to stick out. Just make sure that it stays nice. Yep. So yeah, you're gonna put a tab on here. Again, you can put the tab on before you know, or after you put it together. So what I'm gonna do is take some ink, and since this is supposed to be a vintage one, I probably should have used a different paper, but I didn't. So I'm gonna go around with the ink and let it get in a little bit, because I am going to put scrapbook paper, but I'm going to do backside as well. And you don't have to do back here because you're not going to see that part. I was going to say, I thought I was using a darker color. Same thing here. You're just going to ink this. You don't have to go back that far. Do the back. And you don't have to do anything on the inside because you won't see it. Back. And then this is your front. You can do that. I'll just do this side. You can do the rest of it later if you want. For now, I'll just do what's going to be harder to ink when that thing is in. Is just that front opening. And I got this color here I like to go around with as well. And kind of, this is a lighter color that barely has any ink on it. And I kind of will take this and just go on the white, because I'm going to cover it with scrapbook paper, but there's going to be a little border and I don't want it to be white at all because I want it to be, so I'm going to be messy about it because I ain't that worried about it. I could take a baby wipe and that'll help kind of smooth it out a little bit. I'm not too worried about if it is perfect or not right now. Baby wipe will help kind of move that ink around. Soften it. I think I forgot to do the back on this one. But you could decorate the rest of it when it's put together, but if you wanted to ink it, especially the front areas, well, on the ones that pull out, yeah, I guess it's best to do those now before you put it together. I don't know, I've not decorated one, so I'm kind of learning right now what the best way, but I'm trying to anticipate ahead of time, like, okay, that's going to be an issue. Oh, this one, that's right, this one's going to be my last little card. Comes out the bottom. Now you can make this where it comes out like doesn't have to be this fat. You can make it all different sizes. The only difference has to be that you just have to drop it by 3/4 of an inch on either, like not all together, like the full size. Like in other words, so if you want it to be like this, okay, but you wanted it to be longer or something, you know what I mean? I don't know. If you wanted it to start off longer, you would just make it go from 10 inches to whatever, whatever you want it to be. If you wanted it to be wider or smaller, you would just drop this down. And these are from one to the next is 3/4 of an inch, because 3/8 of an inch times 2 is 3/4 of an inch. So, because 3/8 of an inch on either side is your tab, 3/8 and 3/8. So all you have to do is extend this by, or subtract 3/4 of an inch from the total, either here, all three though, whatever you're going to do, it has to be equal. So if you're going to do it, if you want to start this one off at 12, you can start it off at 12 and a quarter, or you can make it 12 and 3/8, and then you would have to go, the next one would be lower, you would subtract, and you'd subtract 1 inch and then 3/8 of an inch. Do you know what I mean? I don't know if that's making sense. Probably not. Play with it. You'll figure it out. They're just 3/8 of an inch apart. You know what I mean? That's the only difference. They all have to be 3/8 of an inch apart. No, I'm sorry, 3/4 of an inch apart, because the 2 3/8 are on either side. So you add that together, that's 3/4. So 3/4 of an inch apart. No matter what, you can make it 155 and whatever, but they all got to be, then this one, the next one's got to be 3/8 from that one, and the next one's got to be 3/8 smaller than that one. Do you see what I'm saying? It doesn't matter how big you want to start it. This next smallest one has to be 3/4 of an inch. I keep saying 3/8, 3/4 of an inch smaller than that one, and then your next one has to be 3/4 of an inch smaller than that one. Good Lord. I can't think. I keep saying 3/8 of an inch, but it's 3/4 because it's 2 3/8. So, all right, good enough. That'll get us started. So that's what I mean. So you can make it however you want. You can make it telescoping from the top of a page. So if you have a narrow but long journal and you want to do it coming out that way from the top, you don't want to do it coming from the side, you can adjust it however you want to adjust it, is what I'm getting at. Okay, stuff that. Okay, so then you're going to set up your pages so that you have everything ready to go, because then you're going to glue it and then we're going to decorate it. So what you do to glue it is you start with the smallest one. That's right. It's easier to start with the smallest one and then go up. So I'm going to take this, I'm going to put it in, I'm going to do a last double check to make sure everything's good. I'm going to pull it all the way down, so it's all the way down here. And then I'm going to put glue, and I'll put marks where I'm going to put glue. I'm going to put glue here on that tab, there on that tab, and then I'm going to put glue all here, okay? So that's where the glue is going to go. It's not going to go here. It's going to just go on the tab that's sticking up past the edge. So don't put it all the way in here. It's just going to go here. Then on here, you're going to put glue. Now, when you put the glue, you don't want to put so much that it's overflowing, because what's going to happen is if it overflows and gets in here at all, your paper is going to get stuck. So you want to be careful to put it. So if you want to put it on, then take your finger and make sure you kind of smooth it out. Make sure it's not clumpy or lumpy. And you have to do all of these pieces at once, so that then you can fold it over and put it together. So just be careful, because if you're anything like me, I can be a tad heavy on the glue sometimes. If I can stop clogging my bottle by leaving it open, that would be great. So I'm going to put a little glue here. You just want to make sure it's glued, but you just want to make sure it's not so glued that it's like crazy glued. But you do want to make sure your edges are glued, especially on the inside, because you don't want anything to, come loose. So If you're confident that you didn't over glue it and make a mess, then you shouldn't have to smooth it with your finger if you're careful. So don't use a fast drying glue like I am if you want to take your time with it, because well, that's a bad idea. Just double check I don't have any globs where it's going to stick out, because I don't want that. And then you can close your thing and you can carefully press it. I wouldn't go crazy and press it so tight that it's like oozing, but just press it down till it makes contact and is good to go. And while that's drying, I wouldn't do anything yet. Let that dry a minute. Now we're going to get to this one, which I'm putting my edges here, taking this. Oh, there goes my phone. It's telling me I need to take my medicine, so luckily I have my medicine sitting right here. So then we're going to slide this one all the way down. We're going to do the same exact thing. You're going to do just those 2 tabs and that right there. Very easy peasy. You don't have to do both sides of these because obviously it only needs glue on one side. So I try to be as light as I can with the glue. And if you do get any glue, best to take a baby wipe and wipe it if you get glue where you don't want it. Because take a baby wipe and wipe it off as, you know, carefully as you can, just so that you know that it's completely gone. Because even if there's a remnant of it, it could cause sticking that you don't want. You want smooth operations. And then take it and press it down. I'm just pressing very lightly. I'm not like pressing super hard. Okay, and then the last one. This one's easy because you only have 2 things to do. So you put this in there and then you plop your glue on just the tabs. You don't have anything else to put it on. And we're going to put our tab on. I forgot to put the tab on beforehand, so we're going to do that before we push it all in. Anyway, so I'll give it a chance to dry a little more. All right, so the tab, you can take, like, if you have a tab die cut machine, or you have a tab punch or something of that nature, or if you just have leftover paper from your, you know, previous cuttings or something, you just need a tab. You can eyeball it, you can make it fancy. I'm not picky about it. You can use a piece of fabric if that's what you want to do. So I'm just going to take a piece of, and I'm going to just make a generic little tab. Just going to take a rectangle. I'm going to fold it in half and then I'll even it up, because sometimes when you fold it, just look and see if that it's pretty even, not crooked and cockamamie, cockeyed. And then I'm going to ink it just like I did the other one. I ink that side, but not that side. I don't know. And then you're going to just, the best thing to do is to test where you want it and just give it a look, see, and just get an idea. You can make a little pencil mark around the edges if you want to test, if you're not sure, you know, because some glues like this glue here is not good for, like, oh, I need to shift it around. It doesn't like to do that very much. It dries pretty quick, even if you have to put it on both sides, because otherwise it'll stick on one side, but not the other. And then you just take it and find where you want to put it. And that's the part that's going to stick out of your main pocket up there, is just this little tab. And you should be able to do it now. It takes a little finagling. Sometimes you got to do it a couple times. Sometimes you got to like work it for a minute, you know, because you're just getting used to it. So like sometimes you need to just work it. Sometimes you need to work it. And it'll get better as you work it a little bit. And then, let's see. There we go. Now it's nice and flush. And it's got the little tab. Cute, right? And then ba-bam. And that last one, come on. It needs to be worked a little bit. But how cute would that be if you had that in like a pocket or like in your journal on like a page, just glued to a page or the inner cover or something? You can have it going this way. You know, like I said, you can do it whichever way you want. You can do it whatever size you want. You can make it smaller, bigger. It takes a little finagling to get it back in, but you know, I think I'm going to make mine where I might make mine where it attaches like maybe with some Velcro on the back or something that can be pulled out and done. But yeah, cute. And then you could decorate each page. You can't put any major embellishments or anything on the pages. That you can't do. You could put a piece of paper. You could put a journaling spot, or a picture or whatever, but that's about it. Like you can't, and I haven't even done that yet, so I don't know how that's going to thicken things up a bit. So just keep that in mind, that you can't do anything really thick, you know, or anything major. So, because I don't know how this pocket's going to hold and how hard it's going to be to get in and out. So I haven't done that yet. So, yeah. So I think what I'll do is I'll do a separate video of decorating this. That's all I did right now is just ink some of the edges just while I needed to before I had to put it together. See, because like once it's together, it would be hard. I can do this edge probably not very well because then this tab's in the way, so I'd have to move everything out of the way. But it's easier than having to like fuss and try to get in there and stuff. So at least it's done. But I thought it was cute. So anyway, give it a try. Let me know how you liked it. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe. And give this video a thumbs up if you get a second. And yeah, check out my other videos and live streams I do. I do live streams a couple times a week. At least once a week on Wednesdays. I usually do mixed media mashup. Right now I have a lot going on, so it's been kind of crazy. Things in my house and, you know, things getting fixed and done and whatnot. So bear with me because it's been a little nuts here. But yeah, so if you like this, give it a thumbs up and share it if you don't mind. And yeah, let me know in the comments below what you think. And also if you know of anybody else that has done this same thing. I'm not looking for somebody that's done something similar. I'm looking for something that's like almost exactly this type of thing, where it comes out like this and goes back in, because there are a lot of variations of different things like waterfalls, and I've seen those, but I'm just curious if anybody else has made this, because I couldn't find anything and I was looking all over the place. I just couldn't fathom that somebody else hasn't come up with this already. So anyway, thanks a lot. And there's a lot of links in the description. So if you open up the description down there, you'll see where it says see more, and it'll pop open everything. So all kinds of links to my Patreon, to my store, to my Facebook group. So check those out if you get a chance. And yeah, have a good day, everybody. Make sure you do what you love and love what you do, and be nice to people. Bye.